Nimble with numbers.
Good night, Yeah, good night, everybody. There you go. That's a wrap. Welcome, everybody. I should start with there. It's been a long week. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm honored today to have Geoff Lambert here to join the DFS Money Shot. I am Scott Simpson, and though I'm stumbling into the intro, I do hope I can come out and beat my guy Geoff today in this DFS head-to-head contest. Thank you for jumping in last second. You're the man. I appreciate it. Let people know about yourself, Geoff. Where can they find you and your work, and what are you doing out here in the fantasy football world?
All right, yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert 77. That's Geoff spelled Geoff. It's a little bit of a unique spelling. I run a website called goingfor2.com. We got about 30 writers. We cover everything from fantasy football, dynasty, Devy, betting advice, pretty much everything. Obviously, DFS as well. We run a podcast that I run every Wednesday and Friday night. It's live Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday is our season-long show. Friday is the DFS show. It's called the Armchair Fantasy Show. And, I mean, it's a ton of content. We go live every single day, but my show is Wednesday and Friday nights. So you can check us out on YouTube, on Periscope, on Twitch, everywhere. Facebook Live. We're pretty much everywhere. All your major podcast networks too, Spotify, iTunes, et cetera.
Now, you guys are crushing it, and I had the honor of coming on with you earlier this year, which I loved, getting able to go through the slate, getting to talk all the games and talk about what we thought, how the games were going to play out. It was an honor to come on the show. And then on a Sunday, there was a call out in one of the groups we're in, just said, hey, Scott, anybody really jumping on? Can you come on? And I loved it, you weren't on that Sunday, but lots of great people were on. Gladys was on. It was just a great show. And I'm going to humble brag here a little bit. Mike, my co-host on the Fantasy Millionaires, calls it toots when I do this. But I think you got to, honestly, if you make a good call, you got to say this was a good call. I don't always make them, but I happened to call during this impromptu. I didn't know even what we were going to do. Just kind of curious that we're going to talk about games. Right. I called Zach Moss that day. He scored 2 touchdowns, got you over 20 DK points. I also had Corey Davis, who went over 28 points.
Nice.
And then I had the Miami defense, who got you 2 touchdowns. So I was like, I need to go on that show every week. It's a great show. And I was nailing all the calls. But sadly, I do a show that at the same time, every Sunday. But I appreciate the opportunity to jump on your show, and I appreciate you coming on my show. And this is going to be fun. If you don't know, if this is your first time to the show, here's how it works. We are going to go head-to-head in a DraftKings contest. I'm going to pull that up right now. And we both entered lineups here. We have not looked at each other's lineup. Now, I put your lineup in, so I kind of had to see it, but I'm not memorizing it. It's not, I want to kind of go fresh off the cuff. We're going to look at each other's lineups and analyze it position by position and kind of talk about where we see the edges, why we picked the matchups that we picked this week. And this is something that if you're going to go head-to-head against somebody, if you're going to go into a 50-50 matchup, which I do, every week I go into the DraftKings $100 50-50. There's about 1,400 people in it. And that's a lineup that, I've won about 6 out of the 9 times I've entered, which is good. But, doing this helps me learn, helps me get guys, helps me understand who are some plays I should put in, because you want to win in a head-to-head or in a 50-50. You want to beat half the field or the one-to-one opponent in front of you. So lineups are going to be similar in those senses. So let's jump right into it, and let's talk quarterbacks here. By the way, I've got $200 left. He's got $400. I always love when there's cash on the table. That makes me so happy, because that means we're not just going with, the trying to squeeze every guy in there. It's got yeah, it's a little bit off the beaten path, which I like. So let's talk about quarterbacks here. You have the 3rd highest price and probably the 3rd best, let's be honest, on the slate, or maybe even one of the 2nd best. Justin Herbert. The Chargers are going up against the Jets. They're minus 10. I mean, they're really favored to wallop them. Talk about Justin Herbert and what you see in this matchup.
Well, I mean, Herbert has been he's a rookie, obviously, and it's tough sometimes to play rookies, but Herbert's been killing it. I mean, if you look at his box scores, He's got games over 20 points pretty much every time he's been out there. He's been over 20 points. I think he had one game. He had 19.7. Even against Tampa Bay, he had 24 points, which is a really good defense. 41 against a bad Jacksonville defense. And he gets the bad New York Jets defense this week. And I do think that Herbert's going to be throwing the ball over the field. He's got some moxie. We saw his first game against the Chiefs. He found out like a second before the game kicked off that he was going to be the starter, and he went out there throwing the ball over the field. He's an exciting young player. And then if you look at his receivers, that I'll be stacking at least one of the receivers with him. As far as matchups to cornerbacks, the receivers Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both have top 5 matchups versus the cornerbacks. So some great stacking options there as well to go along with him.
Yeah, no, I love that play. The way I see it is, if you're going to pay up, you want to pay up for somebody who's been consistent. That floor is what you need. You need those touchdowns as well. I'm guessing you have a Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry possible stack. We'll have to see. I love Keenan Allen this week. By the way, he's not in my lineup right now, but he's in other lineups that I have. I went with Alex Smith, and here's my thought in this. I'm paying down so I can get some value, somewhere else, honestly. But I do think that defense, Cincinnati's defense, is atrocious. They scored -4 points last week in DraftKings. I should know. I tried to use them as one of my cheap options. It did not work. It backfired on me. Cost me a little bit of money. I still won my 100, but some of those little GBPs did not do as well. But I see Alex Smith now as a starter. He knows he's the starter. He's ready to go. Last week he was able to run away a little bit better than he was able to run away the week before. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals do not pressure the quarterback. They're a bottom, third of the league in pressure rates. I think Alex Smith has a better pocket, and I think that's dangerous. We saw last week where this defense gave up 20 plus points to 3 of the wide receivers on Pittsburgh. And I know the Washington football team's wide receivers are not the same. But I have a stack option going as well, which it's obvious probably who it is. But I do think that there's opportunity for just a little bit of value here. If he maxes out, gets 17, 18 points, I feel that he's kind of served the role, and hopefully somebody else can pick up the slack. So
yeah, I think he had what's he, like a 12, 13-year vet? I think he had his career high passing numbers last week at 390 passing yards, but unfortunately no touchdowns. But I think I like Smith as well. I got him in a few lineups, and I think that he gets those touchdowns this week.
Yeah, and I could see him doing 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick, 200 yards, and maybe that's his ceiling, but that's fine. That's getting you 18, 19 points. Hopefully he doesn't fumble or get hurt. That's always my thought with him, too. Is older quarterbacks, not just him, but what he's gone through as well. I'm always rooting for him as a person, but we'll see. All right, let's go to the RBs. Let's see what we're working with here. Okay, so we do have one similarity. It's hard not to. Dalvin Cook last week was 8,800. They put him up $200. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me at all. What do you see in Dalvin this week, and why is he your RB1?
Well, so I'm full disclosure here. I'm playing my cash lineup against you. That this is my cash lineup, and when you look at the ownership percentages or projections, Dalvin Cook is projected to be at 42% ownership. So you almost have to have him in your cash lineup, or you're just doing it wrong. So Dalvin Cook obviously has been a beast. He's been sort of the Christian McCaffrey of this year when he's healthy. He's getting a ton of usage. They're running the heck out of him. He's getting, and he's got a great matchup as well with Dallas. So I do think Dalvin Cook is the play that you have to have in your cash lineups this week.
Yeah. Here's a stat that I found interesting is that there's only 2 running backs who are averaging over 100 yards rushing this year. It's him and Derrick Henry, and he's averaging about 120 roughly. The Dallas Cowboys give up 157 yards on the ground. That and the 120 that he averages, like that somewhere there's a graph that a nerd is making that's going, oh, that's a good thing right there. Yeah. I could see him getting 2 touchdowns this week rushing, maybe 1 receiving, 1 rushing. He definitely gets in the end zone at least once. I think his floor is that like 22, 23 point range, which maybe he's not 3 timesing, but everyone has him. You feel better about it, and you still get a nice little bump there. So, I think that's what I'm doing as well. And I'll tell you what, this is my cash lineup, except for a little bit different against Bo. I did have Taysom Hill in there just to troll him a little bit as my quarterback. But the rest of this lineup is the same lineup I'm going up against with my guy Bo. This week, we're every week we go head to head, but we decided to Joe Bond over at the Fantasy Six Pack, who we're in a league with. We're in a local league, kind of the Maryland, DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania area, with good folks, a bunch of great folks, and Joe Bond's one of them. He invited me and Bo to go write for him, and we have our own website. We do write over at nimblewnumbers.com, but it's good to write more. It's good to just to do more. Yep. And so, I'm learning from Joe, and we're going to write our head-to-head experience every week. Is going to be over there, and we're going to post our lineups, talk our shit. He beat me last week by 70 points. He talked a lot of shit. And I told him, I'll quote the article. Basically, I said, I went out in the woods, built a log cabin away from everybody, was about to deactivate Twitter. It just quit the whole thing. When a huge grizzly bear came upon me, I dropped my phone. I passed out. I woke up. There was a tweet that was sent out with the grizzly bear's face, declaring me a victor over Bo this week. I don't know what happened. I've been reborn, came back to go after Bo. Let him know I'm coming for him this week. I don't care. This is what happened to me. I'll tell you. I won a big second week of the season. Felt great about it. It was a real highlight for me. A couple weeks later, I had lost, not big, but just lost a couple $100. And I get on to the computer, and my guy Pete Overzet had lost. In his spy, he puts $100 in. He lost, and he had like 8 out of 9 snowflakes. Like you couldn't even like try to do that. If you had one of those loser lineups, you're like, try to get the lowest lineup by spending all of your money. I mean, it was a skill. And so I just put in there, he likes to call himself the deposit king. I put in there, said the snowflake king. And he was like, no, Scott, no, I'm not the snowflake king. And so both started calling me the snowflake guy. So, it's come full circle. I had a few melters last week, but this week, we'll see. Hopefully I do well against you and Bo, because these lineups are tied. So I like how we're putting our money where our mouth is in real life too. Not just, putting a junk lineup in there. I appreciate it very much. I didn't expect anything less, of course, but always appreciate it. All right, let's jump down. Oh, we have some value RBs. I love it. I'll start off first with mine. I've got Nyheim Hines. And for folks who don't know, Nyheim Hines is now the starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts. I think he has Austin Eckler-esque potential in the offense. And I mean that because Phillip Rivers is terrible, and he throws the ball to his RBs a lot of times. And I think Frank Reich realized that, and he's like, let's actually script some passes. Let's do some wheel routes, especially down by the goal line. Let's get the ball in Nyheim Hines' hand. He had a rushing touchdown last week. He had a passing touchdown. He went 12 for 70. I think, they're going to put different players in. That's fine. But at 5,200, I think 15 points is really kind of his floor. I see him getting 20 points this week. Maybe not 25 or 24, but 20 points is a good spot for me. I'm hoping that he hits. What do you think about Hines going up against the Packers this week?
I like Hines, and I like Hines at the beginning of the season as well. And I was really calling him out in some season-long leagues, and I drafted him in a bunch of places. And it's like if they give him the damn workload, right? It's like whenever they use him, he seems to do really well, but they just keep trying to force this, this Jonathan Taylor thing down our throats. It's Wilkins is in there for some plays, and all of a sudden you get Hines in there. All of a sudden he's explosive. He's making these plays, catching the ball out of the backfield. You're like, why don't you just give him the ball? Like I don't understand why they just don't give him the ball, but they did last week, and I hope he continues to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, 5.8 yards. Listen, if you go for one big play and you're just getting stuffed at the line again, okay, that skews the average. But that 5.8 is pretty indicative of him getting loose and getting past that first line. And what you need in the NFL really is that Kareem Hunt wiggle with the line. You got to get by. You got blocking sometimes breaks down. Sometimes you need to be able to get by and get into that second level to be able to make moves, and he can. And he can get past linebackers. He's quick. I love his moves, his little ballerina touchdown. He's not doing it every week, of course, but that's the athleticism he brings. I don't see anybody else at 52. Let's talk about Duke Johnson, because Duke Johnson was in the game for 54 of 57 snaps last week. He and Deshaun Watson are probably best friends by now, hopefully. Talk about Duke Johnson, and though he disappointed last week, it's a new week. He has potential. I really like this play.
Yeah, it's a new week, and he's playing the Houston Texans. It's a totally different team. They give up only one team gives up more points to the running back position. That's the Detroit Lions. The Houston Texans give up 28.8 points to running backs. They got killed last week if you had either Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, it didn't matter. They both balled out. against the Houston Texans. And again, the Houston Texans are just not a good run defense, and they will give some points to Duke Johnson for sure.
Yeah. Let's jump to our wide receivers. Oh, I see your stack is in play now. I mean, I knew it was coming, but when I see it actually in front of me, I'm a little scared, particularly because the Jets like to play zone. And that is where Keenan Allen has feasted in his career. Talk about your stack attack here with Keenan Allen going with Herbert here.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the two receivers here had the two of the top 5 cornerback matchups, and Keenan Allen actually has the best of this week. Some guy named Arthur Mallet, I don't even know who that is, will be covering Keenan Allen, so that's just not a good thing. He's a target monster. He gets a ton of targets. His floor is super high. Herbert loves throwing the ball to him. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's always open, it seems. As long as he can stay healthy, stay on the field, I think he's always going to be up there at the top. And it's at the price below $8,000 for a guy like Keenan Allen. All day, smash it all day.
Yeah, no, I like that. And, I think when I think of Keenan Allen, I think of somebody who is going to get consistent volume and he's going to make those catches. Last week, they shut him down a little bit. He still got a touchdown, but they shut him down. They played in his face. That's not how the Jets are going to play. That's not how it's going to work. They suck. They suck a lot, and they continue to suck. I think they're going to suck for a long time. I think the plan is to suck. And so I pulled up an article here. I don't want to pretend that I just pull stats out of nowhere. I think you want to give credit where it's due. So let me see if I can move this over here. And if it's sharing, let me make sure I can. Okay, good. So this is an article from Roto Baller. And this is the cornerback wide receiver matchups. And you can see you talked about Bless Austin's giving up, 14 points to their wide receiver one. Bryce Hall's giving up, 12.8. And then your guy, Arthur Mallet, is giving up 8.1. But, I mean, all of these guys together, they're giving up yards. And Keenan Allen is going to be in the slot, but he's going to be all over the field. I mean, he's not primarily just going to be lined up in the slot. He's going to be – they don't have a traveling secondary over there. They have a base defense. It's going to be, maybe cover 2, cover 3. They're going to be in that shell, and they're going to try to limit what they can do in the back end because they don't want people to get behind them. I think that's a great play this week. I really like that a lot.
Yeah. Just real quick, I got a tweet from Mike Clay here I wanted to read about the Jets. When we last saw the Jets, Bless Austin, Pierre Desir, Brian Poole were the top 3 cornerbacks. Austin and Poole are now in IR, and Desir was cut. So they had a whole new secondary, and they weren't very good before. So this can't be a good thing.
No, this is a terrible thing. And earlier this week on the Fantasy Millionaires, my co-host Mike Collins, he was pumping Mike Williams also as somebody. I think if you want to go into a GPP and stack Herbert, Keenan Allen with maybe Hunter Henry or with Mike Williams, that might be a play right there that gets you multiple touchdowns. If he goes off for 4 touchdowns, maybe 2 are to one of those receivers and maybe 1's to the other. I think that this is a nice play for GPP or for cash, to be honest with you. It's a really firm play here. I went with McLaurin for mine. I had to stack Alex Smith. I wasn't going to have Alex Smith in my lineup just for value. McLaurin, I wrote about it in my article for the Fantasy Six Pack. He's quarterback proof. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. He's seen Dwayne Haskins. He's seen Kyle Allen. He's had Case Keenum, and now he has Alex Smith, and he's still producing. And then what that shows me is that he knows his routes, that he can run his routes, that he does what he's supposed to do. He's in the position where the ball is supposed to be. And when the person can get it there, he's there. He is there. He makes the catch. And, this is what's crazy. Once every Sunday, Scott Hansen does this. He goes, we're going to cut to Washington. And you're like, here it is. Here it is. It's the play. And then they're like, it's a slant over the middle or it's a deep pass. Terry McLaurin behind the defense. And so I'm hoping it's one of those this week. You saw what Deontay Johnson did last week. You saw what Chase Claypool did. You saw what Juju Smith-Schuster did. I think Terry McLaurin can be valuable this week, and I hope he is the one who pops off. So what do you think about McLaurin, by the way?
I love McLaurin. I actually live here in Washington, so I know all about McLaurin. I hear all about him. He's like you said, he is quarterback proof. I mean, he came onto the scene as a sort of unknown guy, and has been just a stud in the NFL. And I think he is quarterback proof. And Alex Smith will definitely find a way to get him the ball.
Yeah, I remember when he was drafted, I went and watched his highlights, and it was one of those highlight tapes on YouTube that was done with like gangster rap in the background. It was like, I was like, yes, I got so hyped for him. And I used to be a Washington football fan. I kind of, let me just say, Dan Snyder has ruined my childhood love, and so it's just sad. And I hope that eventually we can figure it all out again and we can become friends. But I broke up with him several years ago. But I still love players. I love players like Terry McLaurin, too. He's a beast. So hopefully he hits. But I think in this matchup, you have the edge. So far it was kind of even. The running backs are kind of even. But I think right now you're pulling in the lead for me. You've jumped up maybe plus. I got +3. You got -3 for betting. I'm not a betting. I don't bet. I mean, who bets? I mean, actually, in Maryland we can because we voted to bet. So yeah, God bless us. We're learning. Let's take a look at our next wide receivers. Oh, speaking of Steelers, I mentioned him earlier. I have Chase Claypool. You have Jacoby Myers, who might throw for a touchdown this week. More than Cam Newton. Talk about Myers. I love him, by the way. I picked him up in my season-long redraft, and I'm starting him, so I love him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. I mean, I think he's another one of those chalky plays and cash that you got to have. I think they have his ownership projection at about 22%. Second, really, only to Dalvin Cook's 42%. So he's one of those guys you got to have in your cash lineups. But, I mean, he's getting tons of targets. Cam Newton, I guess his days going back to Carolina must just have this connection with this guy. He's been a beast. I mean, I don't know how many targets he's got total for the last few games, but I know he's been getting quite a few. And like you mentioned, he is kind of involved in those gadget plays too, where he could possibly throw a touchdown as well.
Yeah. No. So here's a question that someone has posed. Which of these Steeler wide receivers do you like the most this week? I've got Chase Claypool. Juju Smith-Schuster's on the table at 6,400, and then Deontay Johnson's priced at 5,900. So, if you're playing, kind of where's your money at, or who are you hedging this week?
It's funny because we had the same talk on my show last night, and I got two co-hosts on my DFS show, and the first talk he talked to Deontay Johnson, and the next guy talked to Chase Claypool. I was like, well, screw it. I guess the only one left is Smith-Schuster, so I'm taking Juju. So sort of by default, I'm rooting for Juju to do well this week just because my co-hosts both took the other guys.
I like it. What I see in Juju is the relief valve for Ben. If Ben is I mean, he targets him normally, but he's the guy he wants to go to when he is under duress and kind of checking down. It's almost like his check down wide receiver. He's gashing the defense, going deep. He's purposely going for Deontay Johnson. He doesn't go, oh, Deontay Johnson's on the fly. I didn't know that. Oh, he's open. No, he's targeting him. Same with Chase Claypool on those crossing routes. He's not like the biggest guy. I mean, they know what they're doing. Juju seems like he's not as schemed as much, except in the red zone or the green zone. He's been getting red zone and green zone schemes. So I do like that. You see that coming out in the film. I'm not a tape grinder, as Paul Howdy accused me of being. I went on his podcast one time. He said, "Yeah, one of those bloody tape grinders." I was like, "Sir, I don't even know what you're talking about." I like scones. I mean, come on, don't give me a hard time. But yeah, so I do want to say one thing about Jacoby Myers. I did say I loved him. The thing about him too is that when he gets the ball thrown his way, he makes the catch. That's one thing. It's all wide receivers have to make the catch. It's implicit, but he's somebody who he's not dropping the football. If Cam is the reason that he is held back, let's just be honest. If at all, if he's held back in a situation, it's not because he's out there dropping passes. Being a quarterback and being able to throw the football, he knows what to do. He's very sure-handed. So I think that's something that I really like about him in this matchup. And I'm scared now. Damn it! You've done a nice little. I thought I was going to Claypool advantage, but I feel like we're kind of dead even there. All right, next. We have a little bit of a lower price, guys. I've got CeeDee Lamb. You have Denzel Mims. Talk about Mims and this Jets team that is going to be trailing probably by double digits most of the game, and they're not going to be running the football. That's just not going to plan. What do you see happening with Mims?
Yeah, so I mean, Mims, and the reason I liked him so much is because Flacco's getting the start again. I know that sounds weird to say that Flacco's getting the start. Let me get this guy in my lineup. But the last time they played the Patriots, he had 8 targets, 4 catches, 62 yards. I mean, he was looking at Mims, quite often in that game. And like you said, they're going to be passing a lot in this game to keep up. And I think Flacco has some confidence in Mims, and he'll continue to look his way. And he's a big play guy. I think he can break a big one here, in this game against the Chargers. And Mims at that price point too, I just think is just way too cheap. He's almost Mims salary at 3.3. So yeah, I love Mims, and typically I don't always correlate my cash lineups. I don't really have where I'm going to have a quarterback and a receiver and then a receiver on the other side. But in this situation, it just worked out so well. I just couldn't avoid it.
Yeah, I really like it too because he needs 10 points to 3 max out, and then you're looking at if he gets a touchdown, he's probably getting maybe 18, 19 points. He could maybe hit 6 times value if he really does cash in. So yeah, I love that. That's a keeper I'm going to steal for some of my GPP lineups. Not going to lie. Part of the experience of doing the show for me is to learn and to have fun too. That's why I picked CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. I picked CeeDee Lamb. He's my guy. He's been my guy from the beginning of the year. I have never wavered from him. He is on my team, my home league, and my team name is CDs TDs. Trademark. TM trademark, because I'm trademarking that bitch. I sent it to him. I said, man, you can have it. He can have it. I think he sees some TDs this game. Hope he gets 1 TD at least. I know Andy Dalton sucks. Let's just put it on the table. The red rifle is not as potent as he used to be, but the middle of the field is where he likes to play because he cannot go outside anymore. It's just not his ball game. So Amari Cooper's in play, CeeDee Lamb's in play. Schultz is in play a little bit, but you really want to get it to the guys who are much faster than the white guys. No offense. I love white guys. White guys are great at times. But in this sense, I want CeeDee Lamb all day long. And this is what's crazy. He is I'll show you. So I have a tool that I use. We all have our little tools that we use. I've created a tool for my my website, and it's a DraftKings tool that I enter all of the data in for every single position each week. And so it's kind of my process to get to know the receivers and where they rank, the running backs, where they rank, all that kind of stuff. It really helps me to understand the value of the players myself because I put their numbers in by hand. I see it myself. I'm building the thing. And so here's what's crazy. If you go down here and you look at CeeDee Lamb, he is the 25th highest scoring wide receiver this season. And he's had performances of 20, 25, 20, 16. He had some duds too, but those are really good performances. He's $5,000. Yeah, a lot of that I understand. It was with a few of those games. Most of those games were not with Andy Dalton, but I still think he has value. And at 5,000, if he gets 20 points, that value is really shining. So I'm hopeful. It's not a wing and a prayer. He has been targeted the second most in that offense. And so, right after Amari Cooper, I love him too, though. His hands, his speed, his quickness, he's a beast. He's a beast. So,
and he's in my player pool too. And I mentioned on my show last night that the last game when Dalton played a full game, Lamb had 11 targets. So he was looking his way. So I think that can continue right there because Lamb is that kind of guy where you get the bonus hand, they are just do something with it. Just, 2-yard pass, go do something with it. That's kind of what Dalton has become.
Yeah. Dalton can't go. He can go deep, but he's just not as accurate as he used to be. You saw that when he was getting moved out a couple years ago in Cincinnati. Last year, he just couldn't do it.
That Cowboys offensive line doesn't allow you to go deep. You can get crushed.
No, you can't. Right? You can't wind up, which is sad for Gallup. But let's talk tight ends. And this is my wife's favorite position, by the way. Yeah, sorry. Shout out my wife, Rose. My wife, so cute. She's in a fantasy league with a bunch of ladies. And the first week she goes, I'm not starting Hockenhouse this week. And I said, nobody is. and she's like, right? And I said, no, because his name is Hawkinson, and you should start him week 1. He got a touchdown. She did not. So the running joke, I always say you start in Hockenhouse, and she doesn't appreciate it. But no one's starting Hawkinson, which is a surprising play because he is one of the top tight ends in DraftKings this week. He's priced down, way down, 4,200. Like
4,200. Yep.
What is that a trap? No, I don't think it's a trap. I think it's a good play, but we went different ways. We didn't go there, which is fine. I went with Mark Andrews, who he struggled. He has struggled this year. He's gone up and down. The only saving grace is that Tennessee has given up 5 touchdowns to the tight end. They're in the middle of the pack against them, and they don't do well against athletic tight ends. They just don't. The middle of the field is open, so it's going to be either a Snead or an Andrews game. I mean, I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I'm banking on Andrews just kind of bouncing back. There's no Nick Boyle. He's out, sadly. That injury, I don't like injuries at all, but that did give Mark Andrews more on the field time. And so that's where I'm thinking with him. Talk about Dallas Goedert, by the way, because I love Dallas Goedert. I have him on my redraft team. So you picked a bunch of players that I have on my redraft team and how it all works out. Like I really like it a lot. Talk about Goddard and what you see in him this week at 3,800. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, and that's it, the price right there. Because usually I'm in my cash lineup, I'm punting tight end. That's the one position where I don't necessarily need to pay up at always. And I think if I'm doing my cash, I'm looking for that cheap end. If I can get the cheap tight end being Dallas Goedert, I'm doing that all day. I mean, he didn't have a great game last week, but he did get 6 targets. So I think the big game is coming. We know Carson Wentz loves looking his direction. Zach Ertz is going to be out at least one more week, if not more. So Dallas Goedert is the number 1 tight end there. I think that against Cleveland, it's sort of we call it the flow chart on our show. You play your tight end versus Cleveland. That's part of the flow chart. Cleveland's just batting tight end. Have been for a while. So Dallas Goedert is primed for a big game here. If he can get 6 to 8 targets and get a touchdown, he pays up that salary quite handsomely. So that's why I'm all over Goddard this week.
No, I love that. I think that's a great play. Earlier this week, I was listening to a Fantasy Points podcast. I think John Hansen was on there. Greg Cosell was on there. There's a bunch of people on there. And they were talking about how Dallas Goedert, when he runs the seam, you're not stopping him. You're not stopping him. And this is the thing I don't think we understand. We watch the football game from a bad perspective. We don't see the all 22. We don't see it in real time. And Jeff, I'm not sure if you played football. You look like a man's man. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Have you played football?
Basketball was my thing. I played football like street football, but not like organized.
I played a bunch of like backyard football all my life, and until I went to high school here in Maryland, and I played 2 years, and I played JV, and then I played varsity, and so not a bunch of street cred. But when you're on the gridiron itself, and you're going north and south, it's a much different experience than when you're watching it from that angle. It's wrong. It's kind of off, and what we don't see is how the game is really played. It's played on levels, and it's played in pockets behind levels and over top of levels. And when you have different safeties, what you're doing is you're just playing Tetris. You're just moving different protections up and down, and some sides of the field move like this, and some side. So if you can get, when a protection goes like this, you can get someone to go like that, you can get something. And so it's much simpler than that, or much more complicated than not simple as that, as I kind of explain it. But what it is you're moving people in space away from other people and getting to open space. And I think that Dallas Goedert has an opportunity. And you saw it in week 1 where he just went crazy to be the number 1 tight end. I think he's got the best chance this week besides Mark Andrews, and he's priced $1,100 cheaper. So I like it. It's a great play. And then it's going to free you up to make a good play too here at the end, I'm sure. And you're a smart guy. I'm a smart guy. And I did look at your lineup just at the end. This is the only pick I did remember. I actually didn't remember that Dalvin Cook and we had the same pick, but I remembered this one because this was a really good one. So the last pick is going to be our defense. Or no, we have a flex. Sorry, we have a flex. I forgot flex. Okay, so no. Pause that. Flex is coming up. Or defense is coming up in a second. Our flex is different. So you have Kalen Ballage in the flex. I have Adrian Peterson. Talk about Ballage, the starting running back for the San Diego Chargers.
LA Chargers, but yes.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm trying the whole time to be like, don't say Redskins. Don't say Redskins. Yeah. And you're like, San Diego, damn it. I've been a fan since back in the day. I'm 41. I've been watching football since I was 5. So I remember it all too.
Yep. So Kalen Ballage is a little bit against the grain because I have Keenan Allen and Herbert already. I don't typically do a negative correlation like that. But the way I build my lineups, I always leave the flex spot for the end because I think that's where I have the most flexibility, obviously. Yeah. So I do that as my last spot to fill in. And you know how when you do DraftKings and you at least on the app, when you get that flex spot, at the last position, it scrolls all the way down to the first person you can afford. Get rid of all the reds. And it was Kalen Ballage. And I'm like, well, Kalen Ballage is there. He's been, getting tons of usage the last couple of weeks. I looked at his ownership percentage. I think he is the third highest ownership. Actually, he's moved up to second now, just above Duke Johnson. He's now at 17.8% ownership, below Dalvin Cook. And it just fit. And it was like, I know I don't like having Keenan Allen, and Ballage because the thought process is if one's doing good, the other one's not doing good. But I do think this offense is good enough that it can support a Ballage and a Keenan Allen in the same lineup. And with the usage he's getting, I think he's gotten I think he had 21 touches last week, something like that. If he gets that kind of usage against this defense, it's wheels up for Ballage at that 5.6 range. You can't beat that.
No, I like it a lot. And I mean, what it says to me though is if you get any targets out of Ballage, you're getting like free points.
Yep.
Like and I love those little upgrades, those little kind of like micro, you're just positioning yourself in a way that game flow, how offenses organically play out. They pass the ball to the person who's at the running back position. Oftentimes, because they're in the running back position, they're on the field, they're servicing that role. And I don't see him coming off. This is something interesting. When he played earlier this season, he didn't look great for the Jets, but it's the Jets. It's the Jets. When you're a NFL player, you have talent. You've worked so hard. I think we rank these guys like that guy's garbage. That guy's 2.8. This guy. All of these guys are incredible athletes. Mad respect to every single one of them. I'm never going to disrespect them. I might, except for Philip Rivers. He's going to throw a pick this week. Philip Rivers is going to throw a pick this week, and he's going to go. I know it. It's the things he's going to do. Two things, and he's going to talk funny smack. I love him, by the way, but he's not good. So that's why. But I really like this play too because if you do get, say, a touchdown from Herbert to Ballage, if it's one of those little goal line plays where he throws it, I'm going to be bitter as hell, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to curse. Adrian Peterson's not going to get any throwing touchdowns. But at $4,000, it was just so hard to pass up. And the way I see it is everybody but Peterson is hurt. I know that finally Kerryon Johnson is going to be available, and finally he might actually do some things, be the third down back, be the passing back. I get it, but I think Adrian Peterson has goal line touches. I think that if they get the ball in his hands down in the 5-yard line, he's going to score a touchdown against the Panthers. They're not very good. So I'm hoping for a sneaky little play there and maximizing upside. I paid up for some of my other players to be able to get a little bit of value there. And if he gets 12 points, it kind of served his purpose. So what do you think about AP this week? Are you playing him? You fading him? How does it work for you?
So I'm not playing him. Well, I am playing him, but I'm actually playing Kerryon a little bit more because everyone is on AP, and I'm playing Kerryon in tournaments. I want that edge. I want that little bit of yeah, exactly. And I think Kerryon, because he does passes, AP's catching. I think he has like 11 catches all season. Kerryon will be that DeAndre Swift type role with the pass catching ability. Matt Stafford loves checking down his running backs. I think Kerryon can have a 6-7 catch game. He may only have like 50, 60 yards, but that's going to be enough for me because he is also 4K, same as Adrian Peterson. So I like both those plays, but for tournaments, I'm going Kerryon for the difference.
I like it. Yeah, it was back and forth. I thought Kerryon the same way. I was like, this is a little bit more sneaky of a play because you really the way they move the ball. The Lions are not chain movers where they get 7, 6, 5, 4 yards on first down. They get 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 1, 4. They're not the big offense. They got to throw the ball. And so Kerryon, I think he's a sneaky little way to get him on the field. I like it.
I think the fact that Amendola's out too helps Kerryon because he can line up in the slot now as well.
Yep. No, I was astounded to hear all the players who were out. this week for them. Galladay is out, Swift is out, Amendola's out. It's not great. It's not great.
Not good.
And that game's gonna be so interesting because I don't know what your thoughts on PJ Walker are, but we can pause here for like 5 seconds and ask that. What do you think about him? I watched all the XFL games. I understand kind of where he was. What do you think about him, and what have you seen in him, and how do you think this game's gonna play out?
So not only did I watch the XFL, I played XFL DFS, and we did an XFL DFS show, and it crushed it. I mean, we were doing awesome. The show was doing awesome. We were getting tons of views.
Oh, I love that.
And Walker was one of the guys that we pretty much just plugged in automatically each week. I mean, he was the MVP of that league if it would have finished out the way it was going. He was the MVP of that league. I do like him. He's not afraid to push the ball down the field, which I like as well with those receivers. He's got some good receivers to get down the field. He's not afraid to throw it down the field. So I do think that if he gets to start over Bridgewater, I don't know, he's still kind of iffy a little bit. If he does play, then I think it wheels up for some of those receivers as well, especially the deep guys like Robbie Anderson.
Ooh, I like it. I at the time last year, I started my website Nimble W Numbers, and I started just writing DFS for not for DraftKings, for FanDuel. I started playing it, and I played it for years, but I had not written about it. And long story short, for me, last year, my daughter at the time, we didn't know she had leukemia, but she had leukemia. And I was in a position in the school system that was a leadership position where I was working 80 hours a week. And I was just getting crushed. My daughter's sick on and off. Things are it's hard. Life is not good. Yeah. I don't like working 80-hour weeks. And that is, it's hard when you have a family with, a wife, 2 kids. It's just not great. And so one Friday night in the middle of October, I just broke. And the way I broke is I bought a website and I started writing fantasy football. I don't know how it happened. It's one of those divine intervention moments because it was so much effing work. Like if you were like, Scott, what do you want to do this weekend? I'm like, I'm going to buy a website and then I'm going to start writing. I'm never going to stop. And then I'm going to start. I'm like, no, that sounds so terrible. But I did it. I just kept going. I plugged away and I called it my shot in the dark. I turned 40. Things were going bad. Later in January, found out what happened with London. And, I had about 1,000 followers. At that point, I think Ryan McDowell followed me for 800-900 and people were just like, oh shit. And I was like, oh shit, oh my gosh, $900. And then, when what happened when London went down, the whole fantasy world just kind of embraced my daughter and myself in a loving way. And now I'm doing this. And so it's a crazy kind of world and how we all work out. And this is something where I'm really excited because I love this. Like, this is what I love. I was pressured. The diamond was pressed together. And what came out of me was fantasy football, DFS, gambling. Like, that's what came out. I don't know why it's in there, but it is. That's what I love. I wake up, I think about players and what they're doing. And so, getting to come on with you too, by the way, I told my wife, I said, here's what's nuts. I had a different guest lined up, had a family emergency. They couldn't, totally understandable. Bad times we're living in right now. Yeah. Geoff jumped in graciously. I said to my wife, Rose, I said, yeah, he's the biggest person I've ever had on my show. I said, he's the most followers. He's done the most stuff. I said, I'm honored. So for me, all this is it's a hard day's night in life. It's what life is. It's a grind. But if you can make friendships, build relationships, do fun things like this, I appreciate it. So one more and we're out. And I'm gonna give you the edge so far. I like your team a lot. I think your team's got like a 5-point, 6-point edge. I'll ask Bo later. He'll give me the real deal. He doesn't hold back. But let's see the defenses. This is where I did cheat a little bit, and so I was trying to hype it. And I always forget about the flex. But we both have the Dolphins. I love the Dolphins. Tell me what you love about the Dolphins.
The Dolphins defense, everyone kind of slept on them a little bit. A few weeks ago, they were like minimum salary. I forget who they were playing. They were playing the Rams, actually. And on my podcast, I called them out. I'm like, play the Dolphins, play the Dolphins, play the Dolphins. And I had them in like all my lineups and no one was like buying it, but they crushed it. And I think that people are starting to go, oh, wait a minute, this Dolphins team is pretty good. And they are. I mean, they're a great team. You got Drew Lock back there who likes to turn the ball over a little bit. And I think I'm looking at defenses. I don't look really too much at points scored or points given up. I'm looking at, I want a team that's going to be dropping back a lot, like the Broncos, they throw, quite a bit. Dropping back so I can get sacks. I want interceptions. I want the options of getting a touchdown. I don't care if they give up 17, 21, 31 points. As long as you get those touchdowns, interceptions, sacks, and to do that, the quarterback has to drop back to pass. You got a guy like Lamar Jackson, for example. He's running the ball. He's not really turning the ball over that much because he's running the ball constantly. So give me a guy that's throwing the ball down the field that can get turnovers, get sacked, those kind of things. And I think Drew Lock is that guy.
Yep. No, I agree. And I played him that week too. That was the week I went on your show and called him out too. And so what's always cool is when you and somebody else who have not gone through the same process, but different, your own organic process, you get to the same nuts and you're like, these are the fucking nuts. And you tell people they're the nuts. And then they're like, oh, I don't know. And you're like, these are the nuts. And then you win, so I love that. I think the Dolphins, I watched a video. I don't know if it was, Baldy or somebody put a video up of just what the Dolphins defense does. There are 7 guys at the front of the line dancing and moving around right before the snap. And you go, well, what does that mean? It means that nobody knows where anybody's coming from. Yep. It makes the offense very unsettled. And then here's what's crazy. They all do this jump step in unison, and then they all come. And you're just like, oh, shit. Oh, they came. Oh, no. Like, it's just, you see it happening, and you're like, oh, don't do it. No, it happened. So I think that Drew Lock is in a world full of hurt, and he's got some ribs. They said he miraculously felt good this week. Well, Toradol can make anybody feel better. So good for you, bro. And I hope they don't hit you in your ribs, because if they do, they're going to fuck you up, So I think it's going to be – I think there's a defensive touchdown in here. There could be a special teams touchdown in this game. I love this play. And you still have the advantage because we have the same defense. So that's my thought. I think you win this matchup. But honestly, I win the matchup because I got to have you on my show, and I really appreciate it, Geoff. It means a lot to me as a person, but then also as a fantasy analyst to have another respected, member of the community who, when you put out that thing the other day to come on the show, I was just like, oh shit. I was like, literally like, oh shit, this is I'm going to do this. I'm so excited. And I was hungover too. I had to get sober real quick. I was like, it was a tough day. So I appreciate you a lot, man. Thanks for jumping into the league I started too. You're the man. Tell people real quick as we jump out where they can find you and what you're doing these days.
You can find me on Twitter. Like I said, Geoff Lambert 77 is spelled Geoff. Going for 2.com is the website. The podcast is the Armchair Fantasy Show. You can find it pretty much anywhere that podcasts are on. And yeah, I mean, we got a great team of writers over there Going for 2. Everything gets tweeted out through my account. So if you follow my account, you can catch all my writers as well from there.
No, I love it and I appreciate it. And my wife and I, we lived in the UK for a year, and we met lots of Geoffs that were spelled this way. And it kind of was just like, yeah, like it kind of made like I think of like Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel, now with the other Geoff with the J. Now I'm just kind of like, oh no, So I love it, and thanks again for coming on. And tomorrow you guys have a show, Sunday mornings.
Sunday morning.
Yeah, Going for 2 live. I was on last week. They got great people jumping on, talking DFS. Please get on there, and they answer questions. They're interactive. I mean, it's very if you're looking to try to figure out who's going to go in your lineup and how you're going to play this, or what DFS plays you're going to kind of round out your lineup with before the games kick off, it's a great way to lead up to kickoff. So please check Geoff and his team out. They're outstanding.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, sir. And thank everybody for joining us. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week. We have great guests coming up. Hopefully we'll find some of those guests soon. So have a great weekend, everybody. Hope you cash next time.